Today I will rank every JoJo's Bizarre Adventure villain, but I do not base this around what most shonen fans are accustomed with, even though JoJo is no longer classified as a shonen series, but you get the point. Anyways, today we embark on a fun scrutiny of every JoJo's villain IQ level. This is gonna be a hard list to put together, solely considering almost every antagonist seemed to have come straight out of a biology or physics class before entering every fight. Speaking of which, their extent of academic knowledge will be measured, as well as combat expertise, speed in reasoning, strategic capabilities, and etc. I'm going to analyze each villain's actions and history, and then rank them in the end, so don't be surprised with the order I put each antagonist throughout the video. Needless to say, this is an opinionated video. Starting with Dio Brando. Despite having been born to a considerably poor family from the slums of England, he always demonstrated to be an above-average kid intellectually. That stems primarily from his quality of being an avid reader, a habit he kept throughout his entire life. He was a very good chess player, so much so that he started earning money from bets. Furthermore, Jonathan's father considered Dio an example that should be looked up by his biological son, and always brought up how much more competent in his studies Dio was in comparison to Jonathan, which is very impressive given the social status of both of them. After a few years had passed, Dio was on the verge of becoming the best graduate law student of what appears to be a very respectable university of the JoJo universe. That is on top of getting away with murder a couple of years prior. In a short span of time, Dio learned several techniques as a vampire that allowed him to challenge and win against Hamon masters with years of experience. Granted, all of his abilities were more of a gift than talents. Now as a stand user, Dio cataloged info on a bevy of all kinds of different stands, which in turn increased his efficiency with his own stand, the world. For the reason that Dio doesn't have any ethical limitations, he cheats a lot in his battles, and doesn't give a damn about involving innocents into the scuffle for his own benefit, and he is a master manipulator also. Upon escaping the depths of the ocean, he formed his own criminal empire composed of mercenary stand users that expanded across multiple continents, and his biggest feat of intelligence is utilizing his knowledge of concepts such as religions, physics, and geography to create a method of evolving his stand. Next up, Cars. He's a little over 100,000 years old and has lived a great portion of his life during a primitive era. However, he's part of the most advanced societal group of his time, the Aztecs, among which group Cars was the brightest individual of them. He is the creator of the stone masks, artifacts that were specifically crafted to hit and trigger specific parts of the brain, with the final objective of making his race immune to sunlight. He furthered that idea with his discovery of the Red Stone of Asia, which in conjunction with the mask would serve as a way for pillar men to reach their full potential by conquering their biggest weakness, the sun. That makes Cars extremely knowledgeable in areas such as urology and optics. And all of this is before Cars gained an IQ level equivalent to 400 in virtue of becoming the ultimate life form, approximately 4 times greater than that of an average person. When in battle, he tends to not care about honor, nor does he bother to use manipulation. He opts for a more direct and traditional approach of the survival of the fittest. All Kid Yoshikage wants is to be able to live a peaceful life, but with a hobby like his, he's been forced to concede his great intellect from those around him. Not just his intellect, but every talent that might get him any kind of attention, winning 3rd place in every competition he's been in since he was a child, like violin, athleticism, and essay. Even though his college works are well done, he always makes an extra effort to get median scores. Eventually he graduated in literature at the age of 22 and started working at an office of the Kamiyu Corporation. His first murder was committed when he was just 17 years old, and of course he went unpunished. He would go on to kill and take the hands of 48 women in the next 11 years. Kid has been shown to be able to calculate distances by heart using Thales' theorem. It doesn't really take much intellectual skills to commit homicides using stand, since you could literally do it in front of somebody else and they would not know you did it, let alone have any evidence to denounce you, especially when we're talking about a stand like Killer Queen. But in a direct confrontation, Kid is smart enough to use his surroundings to his advantage and create complex strategies making use of external forces like Stray Cat, which make him a very dangerous opponent. It's really hard to know for sure Diavolo's level of education, but it seems as though he didn't make it past high school. Despite that, he founded an illegal organization known as Passione, whose influence had grown exponentially all over Italy very rapidly. In order to guarantee his identity is kept a secret, he's always finding inventive ways of communicating with his subordinates. Plus, he's extremely observant in battle. Much like Hars, he prefers to solve things in the most brutal and intimidating way he can be. His most impressive feat of intelligence was figuring out the secret of Silver Chariot Requiem before everyone else could. Enrico Pucci is a priest, so he's evidently a graduate theologist and philosophist. He had showed an interest in central notions of philosophy like fate, and this only intensified when he met Dio, someone who contributed for the betterment of the intellectual baggage Pucci acquired. With Pucci's abilities to plan for the far future, he was the villain who came the closest to ever defeating the heroes. Or maybe he did, if you consider the universal reset a win. Pucci improvises a lot and does a good job of it when he finds himself in difficult situations, which is kind of ironic, and adds to his fast reasoning. His emotional intelligence is also off the charts, thanks to the method he developed to calm himself in anxiety-inducing moments. Arranging Jolyne's prison to steal Jotaro's discs, adapting Dio's plan to be executed under pressured circumstances are just some examples of Pucci's intelligence. After serving in the military, Funny Valentine launched a political career that occasioned in him becoming the 23rd President of the United States. His characteristics are of a very determined, communicative, and charismatic leader who knows what, how, and when to say things. He does have a very philosophical foundation to justify his patriotism and can become very indifferent towards people in general at times, because he's a fascist and a threat to the democracy of the United States. Due to the powers of his stand, dirty deeds done dirt cheap, he has no choice but to be incredibly creative to use his dimensional hop and cloning ability. And he's a military veteran, so that's gotta count for something. A genius move of his was to fund the Steel Ball Run race to find all parts of the Saints' Corps to ensure the dominance of his country over the rest of the world. Toru, the rock human, is vastly knowledgeable in certain fields within medicine, such as anatomy and biology, as he is a successful doctor. Toru can diagnose a person with many diseases with a mere look, and he is proficient with technology as well as engineering, formulating complex ideas to create and perfect machines and equipment. Toru is manipulative and not spontaneous at all, at least to me. He demonstrated his superior intellect through the creation of the Lokakaka organization, the Lokakaka 6251, and to be able to remain hidden throughout the unfoldment of Jojo and plot. Is he a genius in the art of combat? Not really. In fact, he might be the worst out of all of them, because he doesn't need to. His stand Wonder of You does everything for him. Now that I have briefly gone over all of them, let's get to the actual ranking. At the bottom of the list is Funny Valentine. I mean, what is there to say about him? He's a good statesman and one of the best stand users in the series. Beyond that, he doesn't really have much going for him. In 6th place is Kira Yoshikage. He's an incredibly smart guy, but I think his fixation with a structured routine and need to constantly maintain balance between his morbid passion and responsibilities take too much out of him. But I'm sure he would have unironically loved to have seen where he ended up in this list as well. In 5th place is Toru, probably the best out of them in terms of being a quote-unquote average intelligent person, if you know what I mean. He's a doctor, an inventor, a businessman, has impressive manipulative skills. The thing holding him back though is having a ridiculously powerful stand. He's never under pressure to make hard and logical decisions, which prevent him from being able to build up mental toughness. As a result, Toru is very carefree and most likely would have sucked at doing just about any activity outside of his comfort zone that require problem-solving skills, had he not had Wonder of You. In 4th place is Diavolo, the man who, unbeknownst to everybody, created his own criminal empire, which he is quite qualified to run, despite his disadvantages in life. On top of that, he is an extremely skilled combatant, who masterfully uses the confusing abilities of King Crimson to its fullest potential. Diavolo is analytical and methodical going into battle. Similar to Jotaro, he figured out a way to destroy Silver Chariot Requiem to get the arrow in a few seconds, and only lost to Giorno because of Gold experienced Requiem's broken human powers, rather than because he was outsmarted by him. Yeah, I think it's more than fair to rank him this high on the list. In third place, we have Pucci. The main reason for putting him here is his thirst for knowledge. This very characteristic enabled Pucci to become an individual who acts very fast and competently without thinking too much about things. It's almost like he unconsciously makes right decisions because his brain is wired that way. He's the polar opposite to Toru. And since he's a naturally good imprompter, consequently he's a very good strategist and planner, which played into him flawlessly executing Dio's instructions. And in second place we have Cars. Yes, I put Cars in second place, and I see you asking me, how in the hell is Cars not the smartest villain in Jojo, or better yet, the smartest person on the planet, with an IQ of 400? Well, let me explain. While Cars theoretically is the smartest life form on Earth, if we are analyzing feats of intelligence, then Dio does scale above Cars, on the grounds that he single-handedly developed a way to evolve his stand to mating heaven. Cars' biggest concrete feat was creating the stone masks. Cars did this before he became the ultimate life form, which would indicate an immense increase in his cognitive potential after he was already ultimate Cars. I'm not saying Cars couldn't make a diary of his own to evolve a stand, it's just that Dio did it first. Again, if we are considering actual feats, think about it. What it took to invent the stone masks was a massive but feasible knowledge in areas we are already being taught, as opposed to Dio, who tapped into matters beyond the physical reality, which is an objectively superior demonstration of intelligence than what Cars has done. That is it for today's video. Did you agree with my ranking? Tell me in the comments if you did or not and why. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified. With that being said, thanks for watching this video. See you in the next one.